Aboye Abosheshe, and welcome to the program. Today we are going to discuss some issues on financial affairs for the African or Orisha community. I would first like to open by reading an essay from the Urdu, which seems to be my favorite Urdu, by the way, A.G. Ogbe. This essay reads, quietly I go, smoothly I return. Cast divination for Iruwowo, the hook. The grasper, when he was waging war against a tangled knot. They said he would not return empty handed. They said he would sacrifice, and he did, since the Ariwowo, the grasper, has not been empty handed, even if he reaches the top of a mountain to pull something down. Ifa says we are stretching out our hands towards something. Ifa says that we should sacrifice so that we may not be unsuccessful in that for which we reach, whether it is work we do or something else. Okay, today's stream is going to cover, of course, another episode on finances, but this week the finance issue is going to be investment, and particularly in this case, investment in yourself. Now, the first question that would logically be asked is, what does the word investment mean? Well, the term investment apparently has its origin in the Latin language, and the word invest comes from the Latin word investia, which means in English to clothe. So it would seem that the original idea of the word was to cover oneself, or to surround oneself, or to dress oneself, or to clothe oneself. Now, why invest? Because the term vest normally refers to a covering, and in would mean that you would be actually putting this vesture on your person. Now, there is a whole psychology that is associated with attire, with the way you dress, the emotions that are normally experienced when you are dressed up. All right? The term to clothe, from Latin, it was also used in the Italian language, which is one of the Romance language, also implies not only just to clothe, but it means to clothe with attributes. So it means that one would not just be covered physically in clothing, but one would be covered by positive attributes. Now, it mentioned cover, it mentioned surround, but the same word invest or investia or investir also carries another connotation because it was a term that was used commonly by military persons. And the usage of the word investire or investor meant in military terminology or in the lexicon, in military lexicon, to mean to besiege or to surround with hostile intent. Okay? Now, if we were to use a modern dictionary, it's going to be telling you that investment is money that you utilize for the purpose of acquiring profit or interest. But here we are learning the original intent meant to clothe with attributes or to surround with hostile intent. So let's see how that's going to fit into today's discussion. Now I'm going to discuss 10 points as to what a person can do to invest in themselves. All right. Now, even before I go into that, I want to talk a little bit about investing in the future of your children. There is a school that is going to be launched during the course of the coming year. The name of the school is the Ifa School of Enlightenment. The founder of the school, as with every other member of the Ifa Orisha community, recognized the very important role of us being in a position to educate our own children. This is why I'm talking about it, because this indeed is an investment into our future. Now, our children are our future. So why should we allow someone else to nurture, to train, and to cultivate the minds of our children and expect that our children is going to be prepared in such a way that they are going to be of any use to our community? Well, it's never going to happen. Fortunately for us, we have the founder of this great idea and this organization that is going to be not the first of its kind in the country, because we've had efforts in our community before to establish educational institutions, right? But this particular effort, I believe the time is right for this particular effort, because we have a growing community and we have growing demands for education. Now, the significance of the Ifa School of Enlightenment: the school is going to be located at Nile Trace in Lower Santa Cruz at the Ile Shoka Pali. The facility there is well developed. It is well fashioned, well styled, well built to accommodate and to host a school. Right? It's a 3-story building. And there is also the Irole on the outside, where normally Iwori and other important meetings are held. My reason for mentioning this is that I am trying to encourage members of the Ifa Orisha community, as well as all African and conscious individuals, to enroll their children in this school. This investment in the future of your children, or our children rather, not your children, our children, because your children are my children and my children are your children. And this is the spirit that we need to recultivate, because this is how the elders used to live. A child was viewed as their own. So if the child was seen on the street being unruly, the child would have been corrected. We have to reinstate those values. So let me go back to the importance of investing in your children's education. The time is now coming when our community and our people are becoming awake, where we are now recognizing that no one is interested in our development, where we should be interested in our own development. No one is doing anything for us. The financial institutions are on the verge of very, very difficult times because of this COVID situation, not just in Trinidad, but around the world. Most economies are contracting. With the contraction of the economy, everyone is going to be affected in an economic way by these activities. So hence now is a very, very important time for members of our community to wake up. I don't even want to say and smell the coffee, but it's time for us to wake up and realize that things are changing around us. And now is the time when we have to make the necessary steps to come together and to work out and work together towards a better future for ourselves and for our young ones. So I am saying at this institution, the IFA School of Enlightenment, the founder explained to me that the intention is to have a well-developed curriculum and programs that would cater for the holistic development of our children, a program that would go hand in hand with the values that the Ifa Orisha community espouses. So I'm just saying this to make us aware. So for all those who would view the stream, after today you will be without excuse. You know, many of us complain all the time. Our children go to the Catholic schools. They are being harassed for wearing their ED or their LEKs on their neck. While other groups are not being harassed who have similar spiritual objects or religious articles on their person. We are now in the process of establishing our own educational institutions. This is one of the investments that I'm going to speak about, investing in yourself. Your children are your legacy, so they are a part of you. So please go and register and take your children to the IFA School of Enlightenment. Okay, now let me go back to today's discussion. Today's discussion is about investing in one's self. All right. Again, when one hear the term invest, one would think about, you know, utilizing your money to acquire interest or profit. But today's discussion is about clothing yourself with positive attributes, which is the original and true idea that was coined when this Latin term investir, which is now used in English as invest, was coined. The first thing on my list that I have listed here for investing in oneself is to spend time reading. This is something, unfortunately, we've been sold through the education system. We've been sold short on. Many of us never appreciated it because of the way in which it was given to us. The subjects that were taught to us were not positive. And in many instances, I think it did a lot of psychological damage to us. Where we would be reading our own history and we would be reading it in a negative light. We would be reading our history where all we are being told is that We were slaves imported from West Africa and other parts of Africa. There was no lessons taught that speaks of our people who contributed to the development of knowledge, science, medicine in antiquity. This history is not on the school curriculums. Nobody speaks of Mansa Khan Musa in the institutions that our children attend and that we attended for that matter. So the reason why reading is on the very top of the list is because reading allows you an opportunity to be exposed to lots and lots of information in lots and lots of disciplines, in lots and lots of fields, from lots and lots of places that you may never go in your lifetime. You may have an opportunity to read a book that was written by someone who lived a different life from another part of the world. You may have an opportunity to get an understanding of something you might be interested in. You know, the key to reading is to select material that you are interested in. Something that you've always wanted to know or something you've always wanted to do, but did not have access to the information. Reading provides a whole wealth and a whole world of information. So the first investment one may want to make in oneself is to put in some effort and some time into practicing reading and finding things that you are interested in and reading it. So right there, that's the first investment that one could make in one's self. I personally have always been an ardent reader from a very young age. And the reason that I spent a considerable amount of time reading is because I had parents that spent time reading. My father was a pastor. He had a study. And he would normally spend quite a bit of time in his study reading. I had a mother who was a housewife. She loved reading and doing the crossword puzzle. I could remember being a child and my dad would come home from work. He would sit at the dinner table. He would have his meal. After which, he would whip out the newspaper. He would go in the gallery or on the porch and he would sit there and he would read the entire newspaper from front to back. So for me, I had examples of people who read. For my children also, my children saw me spending a lot of time reading. What I would do is I would take them to the library every Saturday. They would enroll, they are members of the library, and every Saturday they would go and they would borrow 3 books. Take them home, they would read all 3 books during the course of the week. And on Thursday and Friday, I would discuss with them the contents of the books. And depending on whether or not the book selected was relevant to things that they may have been doing in school at the moment, I may sometimes ask them to write a little summary or a little report. And then on Saturday, we would return those books and they would take another fresh 3 books. So this could also be used as a family opportunity to spend some time taking the kids to the library, showing them the services that a library offers, having a chance to discuss a few things with them concerning how the facility is to be used, also concerning things that may be of interest to them, so that they could select books within their reading level and within their area of interest. So we're going to move down the list and we're going to talk now about a second area in which a person could actually invest in themselves. One of the ways that you could invest in yourself, which is number 2 on the list, is by speaking with other people. What do I mean? Everybody have a mouth, right? Everybody could talk. But do you communicate effectively? Do you engage the process of active listening or receptivity to what is being said by someone else? Yeah, hearing is a passive process. Listening is an active process. And how people communicate is one person transmit the information, the speaker, while the other person receives the information. They are called the receiver. It is a two-way process. This is why it is called a dialogue, right? Meaning it is something that is taking place between two persons. And in some instances, communication may include more than two persons, right? But the reason you speak with other people is to impart what you know as well as to learn something from someone else. And in this particular instance, where you are investing in yourself, this particular idea of communicating with others also include the concept of finding what is called a mentor, or communicating with someone who may have a greater knowledge of something that you might be interested in. Something that they can educate you about, something that they can share with you, something that they can help you understand better than the understanding you have currently. The third thing on the list for self-investment is called networking. You know, this is a fairly modern term that a lot of people use networking. It's a term that is also used as part of the technological or computer lexicon. It's part of that language, where you get on a computer and it's part of a network, meaning it is linked to other computers. So when we're talking about networking, we're talking about linking with other people. In some instances, like-minded people. You know, you tend to find a certain amount of harmony and comfort when you network with like-minded people. However, for the purpose of education and for learning, it is also recommended that you don't only network with persons who share your view. It is sometimes necessary to network with people who has different views outside of your own, so that you will have an opportunity to understand what is called perspectives, meaning differing views coming from other people. But this is what allows you to view any subject, any topic, any experience outside of your own differently. Well, together with networking, I also have an important facet, which is quality friendships. What does that mean? Quality friendship. Friendship isn't something you buy in a store, you pick it out on a shelf, and one costs more and one costs less. Well, no, it's not. But in many respects, all relationships that you will have, whether it's a friendly relationship, a love relationship, a symbiotic relationship, there are many categories of relationship. But they all have some sort of what is called value exchange, meaning you are willing to give something to maintain that friendship, and the other person is also willing to give something to have that friendship. But sometimes you all may go out, and that means spending money. So you are giving up some of your resources. And in many instances, one of the most expensive commodity that is given in friendships and relationships is time. Some people say time means money. I'm not sure that it does, you know. But what you do with your time could mean money. Yes, most definitely. So what we are saying is it is important when you're networking to develop quality friendships or quality relationships. Relationships that can be mutually beneficial. By that I mean having a value for value exchange. This is one of the ways you can invest in yourself. The fourth thing on the list of self-investment is something that a lot of people don't do, and it's called traveling far. I would explain to you why this is a very important thing that one should invest in. We live in a world that is made up of many different types of people. We live in a world that is made up of, when we say different, we're talking about culturally different, linguistically different. We are talking about all the apparent differences that exist between people. The way people eat, the way they live, the way they speak, the way they dress, the way they think, the way they express themselves. Having a chance to travel far away from where you live, or where you reside rather, because you live in your body, where you pick up residence, allows you to have a first-hand opportunity to experience what a different life is like. I'm not talking about going and staying in some hotel and going in the Starbucks or going in the restaurant downstairs and eat where you're accustomed to because they have international cuisines there. No. I'm talking about going among the native, or what do we call the common people, who in most instances happen to be found in most countries in the majority, living among them. And I mean staying more than 6 months when I say living it. I mean seeing what their life is like, seeing what they do on a daily basis, seeing how they eat, how they communicate, what their family life is like, what their community life is like. You know, the standard of life, the education, the mentality or the mentation of people, the way that they think, the way they view things, the way they value things, because different cultures value different things as more important than other cultures. So traveling allows you to experience another person's life. As a result, you would have another view of life. You'd have an opportunity to make comparisons between the way you normally live and the way somebody else lives. You may even be able to appreciate why other cultures value things differently to the way we do. Remember, all of these things is part of the learning process and the education as you travel through life. And it gives you an opportunity to learn new things, just like reading, just like speaking and having mentors, as well as just like having qualified friendships and relationships. So far, everything I've mentioned has to do with learning and experiencing things in life. The fifth thing on the list is doing courses that would help you develop skills. And this is a very, 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 very important investment to make. And I will explain to you why. Normally,